So here is a practice of where I'm gonna incorporate acupressure points with the yin yoga shapes and all of that the umbrella of supporting the immune system. I'm going to try to keep the practice relatively short so that it'll be something that you can use regularly, which is how it's most effective. You'll get more information about all of the acupressure points somewhere. Wherever you found this practice is a link that shows the location of the acupressure point. So if you want to look at that before, so you feel more confident throughout the practice, you could, but I'll also be explaining that. We're going to start at the back of your, if you're using a mat, it could be at the back of your mat. And the only thing that you might need at one point is like a block or something to sit on if sitting on your heels is not comfortable. So then consider coming to the back of the mat with your knees pointing forward and elevate your hips however high you need them to be in order for the knees to be happy. The first thing that will support in this practice is actually our kidneys. So I'm going to bring the hands to my lower back area. So feeling into that lower ribs area. And a couple of times I'm just going to hold my hands there and I'm going to roll back on my sit bones and forward on the sit bones. And I'll round the back and I really kind of feel that lower back area kind of rounding and puffing under my hand. And there's this kind of a squeeze when I rock forward. And the breath will be on the inhale actually when I'm rounding. So when there's this rounded sensation against the backs of the hands, that's also when the breath is going to come here. And on the exhale, there's a squeeze. So maybe it's a little bit different than how we'd usually do. So I'm just sensitizing myself to this area, to the kidneys. And so the concept of immune system in Chinese medicine is a little bit kind of broader and involves these different organs and organ systems and meridian lines. And so kidneys is one of them. I'm going to do a little bit of tapping, so I'll continue rocking back and forth. And then tapping loose fists up and down. So just again to bring my awareness here. And so kidneys are the source of your yin and yang energy in the body. Housing Jing, the precious essence. And then a little bit of rubbing. Good. And then just a momentary pause where I'm just feeling this area in the lower back. We're going to come back to the kidneys in one specific posture later on. But now I'll bring my attention to the front from the kidneys to the lungs that are usually like more, we kind of know lungs associated with immune system. Again, in Chinese medicine, Wei Qi is that defensive Qi. So now I'm tapping my lungs. And in a moment, there will be an acupressure points that I'll introduce. So a little bit of and again, I'm just kind of letting the chest collapse and puff a little bit, tapping up and down your breastbone here. And then let yourself tap over to the right side. And there's actually 2 points here. There's lung 1 and lung 2. Lung 1 is a little bit lower. So it's the lung meridian line kind of comes from in front of the armpit, loops a little bit up and then down along the thumb side of the palm. So lung 1 would be kind of like you find your collarbone, you walk a little bit further down and just poke around, like there's this groove there, pectoral muscle and deltoid muscle. And usually these points are somewhat sore. So I'm going to just find lung 1 today. And feel free to kind of use 2 or 3 fingers to just massage around. And as I said, I found it. So as I said, it's usually a bit tender. And we can pause for about a minute here where you can continue kind of palpating with small circles, or you could just hold it. See if you can intuitively sense what works. I took a little bit of a deep breath. And lung 1 point is called middle palace. And yeah, it helps with all sorts of breathing issues, cough, asthma, regulating the breath, but also used often for giving us inspiration, reminding, or kind of to boost self-worth and to remind us of our higher purpose. When we do the second one, I'm going to tell you about the lung 2 point, which is very close to it. So if you use this practice in the future and you get familiar with these points a little bit more, you can choose which one you want right now here, lung 1 or lung 2. So I'll give it another breath here. And then I'll slowly release, and I'll take myself into a wide knee child's pose. So I'm removing the block, taking the knees wide and open. And I'll at first gonna walk the hands over to the left. So I'll stretch now through the right side. So coming forward and then reaching through the right side. You could take the block under your forehead, or you could use your left hand or fist under the forehead. So again, for about a minute, I'm just gonna let that right side of the body and the lungs, so physically opening the breath by stretching the fascial connection, the ribs themselves on the right side. Feel that the hips are heavy, and if you have like a big gap there between the buttocks and the heels, consider placing something between there, a blanket, so that you feel supported by the ground, and that the body weight can drop. Let's give it another couple of breaths. And I wanted this practice to have variations, so hopefully you'll do it more than once, and so you can choose to stay here. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the position of that right hand. I'm going to have it come underneath me. So there's two options here. You could reach through the right hand and take it more into a twist with the right side of the head down on the ground. Or it could be more a shoulder blade, upper back stretch where the right hand is kind of pinned under your chest and more the forehead down. And again, you could bring the block under your forehead or use your left fist under your forehead. So the options are not there to overwhelm you, but just to give you some variety and choice. And so I'm working with the arm lines where the lung and large intestine meridian lines are running, related to metal element. And both of those connected to Wei Qi, the defensive Qi. That's part of the kind of what we might call immune system in the Western medicine. Let there be a softness in your belly. be a gentleness in your breath. No rush here. And then give it another breath. And then I'll slowly walk the hands up and just for a moment coming over to all fours. And you could do some movements here for the spine, or you could choose to move that right arm a bit, maybe circling. This is again kind of your choice. We're going to come back, sitting back on the heels. So maybe you want to open into the backs of the legs. Maybe your practice wants to stay quite close to the ground, then you're just going to stay in wide knee child's pose, but just relaxing into the shoulders. So again, options there. On different days, you can do what serves you best. And then I'll settle back onto the heels at one point. So remember, you can bring the block in if sitting on the heels for longer periods is not comfortable. And then I'm going to do the other side. You don't always have to do both sides when you're just doing the acupressure points. You could do just one side, but for our yin sequence we wanna. And you could choose to now again go back to the lung 1 point, which is a little bit lower. Just for information, the lung 2 is higher up, so poke around a little bit underneath your collarbones. There's a bit of a groove there. Yep. And as I said, yeah, they're a bit tender. And the lung 2 point is called Cloud Gate. And again, it also helps with regulating breath and with any type of like lung-related afflictions, but it's also often used in times of mourning or depression, so grief being the emotion associated with lungs. It helps to remind us of preciousness of life. And I especially like this image, Cloud Gate. It's literally like there's creating a bit of a gap in the clouds so that we can see the bright sky. And so that's lung 2 point. And again, either holding or gently massaging it. We'll hold it for about a minute. So which means a couple of more breaths. And then same postures for this side. So starting with the side stretch from wide knee child's pose, this time walking the hands over to the right so the left side can stretch. Find a place for the hand. Settle back with your hips. And then of course coming into that yin mindset of slowing down, connecting to our bodies and breaths. Even simply that soothing, gentle breath is something that would be good for our immune system, for the immunity of the body, or our body's ability to defend itself from what in Chinese medicine are called the external pathogens, or the evil qi. The collective functions that we supporting with stretches and some of the acupressure points is called upright qi. So loosely maybe an equivalent of the immune system, but more kind of intricate. And then I'll change the position of the left arm. And again, you have that choice to add a twist, more of reaching through that left arm and bringing more the outer shoulder onto the ground and your left temple, or pinning the arm more underneath so it's more, I feel it more in the upper back. It's not so much a twist, but like a shoulder blade stretch here. Feel into your willingness to be still, to notice, to be present. Some days it's easier and some days it's harder. Let there be no judgment. Let's give it another couple of breaths. And then once more, when you come out, it might be that you just want to stay very close to the ground, just relaxing that arm. It might be that you want to include some movement, either for the whole spine or just for that left arm. Again, tune in for a moment and to see how you want to be in this release, in this moment of rebound. And then we'll slowly find our way into that kidney posture that I was talking about. So we're going to come onto the belly, but I'll take a little stop before I get there. So if you were in child's pose, come to all fours, keep your bum on top of your knees and walk the hands forward. So just for a moment, letting yourself feel now both sides of the body stretching. You can have them both arms kind of on the sides and the waist and the ribs. Arms can be however wide you want them to be so that the shoulders are not at all pinched. Give it one more breath. And then slowly find stability in your shoulders, which might mean that you need to walk your elbows slightly back towards you so your forearms are on the ground. And then bringing the belly forward. Just take a moment to let the whole front body meet the ground and feel your breath here. Feel the breath kind of rising, the ribs moving against the ground. And lately my favorite way to come into a Sphinx pose is to actually start with a little bit of activating of the back body. So I'm tucking the toes under and lifting the kneecaps off. The front of the thighs are quite active as I reach back through the heels. Keep the shoulders initially relaxed and just feel the backs of the legs lengthening away through the heels. And then begin to come up onto your forearms, however much it feels appropriate. So you might be just lifting up just a little bit. I'm keeping that activation in the legs. Or it might be quite okay to walk your forearms right onto the mat and elbows under the shoulders. I'm lifting through the chest. I'm keeping kind of a bit of this dragging back through the arms. Yeah, I know, a bit onion-like, but I think it helps with the melting that comes afterwards. Feel your pelvis heavy and dropping. So your pubic bone and pelvis, they drop. Give it another breath. Feel that squeeze, that kidney squeeze, the part of the body that we kind of touched and stroked a bit before. So another way to stimulate. And the Mingmen point also between the kidneys there. Beautiful. And then imagine, as I start to relax the legs, imagine like you're an ice cube in the sun melting. So that's how my legs melt onto the ground. I'm going to have the leg spread however wide it feels comfortable. So notice your lower back. Generally, the closer the legs, there's a little bit more kind of activation and also sensation in the lower back. So play with the width. And then you can also play where exactly your forearms are. They can be closer, or you can walk them further away so that the curve is not as steep. And what I'm playing with here today is adding an acupressure point from here. So for that, I'm going to actually take my hands, so rather than my palms forward, I'm going to fold the hands in towards my hand towards the elbow. You stay as you are. I'm going to come up so that I can show you the point on large intestine line that runs on this. When I point the thumb up, it runs on that thumb line here. And again, there's 2 points that you can use, and both of them are on the large intestine line, and both of them are for the immune system. So I'll show you one that you can use now. So as your thumb is pointing up, the radius side of the arm is up, and you have your elbow crease. So notice the elbow crease, and at the end of that elbow crease is your large intestine 11. Yeah, 11 is there. And again, I can feel that. So large intestine 11 is called crooked pond, and for fevers, flus, colds, it's also like a strengthener and booster for the immune system. Also helps with constipation, and that might be physical, but it also might be mental and emotional constipation. And then a little bit from there towards the thumb, so 2 thumb widths. This is how you kind of measure distance. 2 thumb widths towards the thumb is your large intestine 10, which is what I was going to use today. And again, just poke around. So you'll be here with your thumb pointing up and then finding that point here. Oh, yeah, found it. And why I wanted to use this one is this is called arm 3 mile. And we're going to do the leg 3 mile as well. And so this one again is for an immune system boost, but also tonifies chi and blood. And so again, you can hold that, you can massage that, and if you do this practice again, or if you are choosing the points on your own, know that they have slightly different effects. You can play with that, you can create your own relationship to these points, but both of them are good for the immune system. So large intestine 10 and 11. I'm using the 10 right now. And I'm going to do just one side, but you could do both. You don't have to hold it for the whole duration you're in the Sphinx pose, so you could maybe after a minute or so, you could release the point, and you could then adjust your arms in any way. You could do it on the opposite side if you want. If you have any variations that you like to take in your Sphinx pose, then you could also do that, bending into the knees or straightening through the arms. Let's give it another breath. And then slowly coming to release. I'll stay on the belly, but you could also lift to all fours. I like to stay at least a couple of breaths, sensing the lower back. But again, these rebound moments, you can make them your own. What offers greatest relief? Movement, stillness, a counterpose. And then slowly we'll find our way to all fours. I'll stretch my buttocks back towards the heels for just a moment. And then, as I said, I wanted that similar functioning point on the leg as well, called leg 3 mile. So I'm sitting on the heels and I'm going to step the right foot onto the mat while staying seated on that left heel. And this might again be that if that doesn't work for you, your knee doesn't allow for that, then sit on top of something. So finding that leg point, you're going to have to find the kind of the eyes of the knee, or the patella, the kneecap. And again, none of these points with acupressure don't have to be super precise. I'm going to take my 4 fingers from the eyes of the knee down along the shin bone, and then it's 1 thumb width over towards the little toe side. So I've taken my left leg. You can take whichever. We're going to do both sides. But what I'm again encouraging you is just use your, 2-3 fingers and poke around thereabouts. So thumb distance away from the shin bone over towards the little toe side. And this one's said to be one of like the most potent ones for tonifying blood and chi. And so immune system, yes, but also in general for fatigue. So I've been religiously using this one over the winter months. This is on a stomach meridian line, so spleen and stomach, the earth element. So it's also very much calming and nourishing and grounding. And it invigorates at the same time. And literally it means like you're tired and you use this point and you can walk 3 more miles. And so similarly, we'll hold it and or massage it. You can stay with it longer. I'm going to take a dragon pose in a moment. And also, if you're using just the acupressure points, you don't have to do both sides. You could pick one side. You could pick your favorite 3 points and just do them without the postures. I'm going to give it another breath. Good. And then as I slowly release the point, I'm going to bring that right foot forward into a dragon shape. I'm going to have the hands come on inside. So my dragons lately have been ones that kind of explore and move initially. If you have your favorite way to be in a yin dragon, then please take that option. So holding it still, finding a position for that left leg, or a little bit of movement and exploration first. And if you find a shape where you want to pause, notice where you feel it. Keep that yin edge where softness is possible, where your jaw can relax and your eyes can soften. I'll give it another 5 breaths or so. And then once more, I want to give you an option for the rebound. And again, you can mix it up in different times when you practice. So you could step back, child's pose, down dog, all fours, or you could step forward and include a forward fold. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring that left leg, right leg forward for a couple of breaths. And then I want to do that for the opposite side as well. Know that again, you don't have to. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to use the block. I'm going to keep the right foot on the ground. I'm going to find the eyes of the knees, or another way to say it is find your kneecap. Measure down. 4 fingers down, 1 thumb width. Laterally, meaning away from the center towards the little toe side. And again, just give it a little poke around. Usually these points make themselves known. Yeah, there it is. If you use them more, yeah, see if the points start to reveal something to you. Noticing any changes in your breath, anything that arises. Being with that bittersweetness. And then I'll slowly add here the dragon pose for the opposite side. So stepping that right foot forward. And again, choose stillness, choose little explorations. Softening through the eyes and the jaw, the tongue in the mouth. Feeling the pull and call of earth and gravity. See what can be softened, and notice in any way that you're kind of propping yourself away from ground. Let these yin qualities come in more. The turning towards, the allowing, the meeting each moment as it is. And softening away from forcing or striving. Really backing off when you need to, or leaning in when there's a call for that. So moment to moment you present. That's where the next steps arise from. Truly being with what is. And then similarly here, this is our last shape. You could step back, you could step forward. You could start to feel into how you want to finish your practice. So it could be that you take whatever rebound you've taken, whether it's in movement, whether it's closer to ground, or I'm in forward fold. And you could now either lie down on your back, you could come to a seated meditation, you could come to standing meditation. I kind of offered this sequence a little bit more invigorating, so more like morning, daytime sequence. So what is the kind of the next thing that you're moving on to from your practice, and then choose an appropriate ending for that. So standing meditation would be just you roll up to standing, and maybe the eyes stay closed as you feel into your balance. So maybe that's kind of the most unfamiliar one. So I'm going to come to that so that I can guide you from there. Those who are lying onto the back, I think that's self-explanatory. You're going to find your ease and comfort on the back. And similarly, when you're coming to seated meditation, then you're going to make your seat comfortable. In standing meditation, I'm going to keep my knees slightly soft. I'm going to turn the tailbone down for this particular one, the Wuji stance. So that opens again a space between the kidneys, the door of life. Many names for this point, Mingmen point, again related to our vitality. The arms can float a little bit on the sides of the body as if you're floating on top of water. So there's a little bit of a gap there. And then the chin comes in, so the back of the neck is long. The final thing, if you're standing, you can place your tongue on the roof of the mouth behind your front teeth. So that closes an energy circuit. You find your own comfort in seated and in lying. And then whatever you've chosen, connect inward. Notice the body, sensations, breath. Let yourself sink below the narratives about this moment, coming more directly to your felt sense. And then hold this space for yourself for however long you can or need or have time for. I thank you for practicing.